right, so in this section, we are going to kind of test everything that we've already learned. We're going to test our zeros exponents. We're going to test our negative exponents. Remember, if we have a positive, it stays. It's actually happy. It doesn't want to move. So if I look at A, I have 2x to the fifth, y to the negative 4. Do I have parentheses? If I look, I don't. So I'm going to treat each one as if it's its own thing. So I look at the 2. What's my exponent with 2? I don't have any. So what happens when I don't have an exponent? It's a 1. So I'm going to put this 1. Remember, it's invisible, so I don't have to do anything with that. So I look at the 2. It has a positive 1 as an exponent, so I am going to put a 2. I have this x equals negative 5. So I need to, actually let's make this a little bit smaller. I'm going to put a fraction bar. Since this x is negative, it doesn't want to be there, so I'm going to move it down. So I'm going to make a bottom arrow line. Alright, so it's going to move down here. What happens when I do move this x? What happens to my exponent? That's right, it becomes positive. So I'm going to have a positive 5, and I'll do that in a different color. I now look at my y. What's the exponent on my y? It's a negative 4. And again, negatives are little babies. They don't want to be there. They want to move. So I'm going to move this guy, but since it's already on the top, then that means it's going to move to the bottom. So I'm going to have y, and my exponent is going to be a positive 4. So again, the 2 stays on the top because the exponent is a positive. It doesn't want to move. It's fine where it's at. Both my x and my y have a negative exponent, so it is moving down. So if we look at B, C and D, they're both going to be treated separately because I don't have any parentheses. I look at my C. C has a negative 6. That means it's not happy where it's at. So I know my C is going to be moving down. So I'm going to draw my arrow going down. So then I know I have a fraction bar. And since C was on the top, it's now going to move to the bottom. So I'm going to get C, and I'm going to get a positive 6 because once I move that guy over or move it down, it's now happy. If I look at my D has a negative 4. So since it has a negative 4, we're going to move it. But it's already on the bottom. So if it's on the bottom already, I move it to the top. So I'm going to put an arrow going up. So I'm going to move my D to the top. Once I move the D to the top, my 4 becomes positive. That's right. So then my answer is D to the 4th over D to the 6th, or C to the 6th. Again, the C didn't like where it's at, so it moved down. My D didn't like where it's at, so it moved up. So what they did was just switch. Once they switch, my exponents become positive. Looking at C, I do see that this one does have parentheses. That means we're going to keep them together. We're going to use them as if we're going to look at them as if they're one number, one variable. So I have 5A. Both the 5 and the A have that negative 3. So I don't like where it's at because it's negative. It wants to move, so I'm going to make that fraction bar. Since it was already on the top, it's going to move down underneath the fraction bar. So since there's nothing on the top staying, we're going to put in a 1 and then move down my 5 and my A. Don't forget your parentheses. And now the negative 3 is happy because it moved, so I'm going to keep it as a positive 3. Okay? So again, because I have those parentheses, I'm treating the 5 and the A as one item. So I'm going to move both of them down. I'm going to keep those parentheses, and that negative 3 does become positive at the end. And since I didn't have anything staying on the top, I put in a 1 as a placeholder. Looking at D, again, we don't see any parentheses, so I'm going to treat those as separate numbers. That 5, I don't have an exponent there, so I'm going to pretend that, or not pretend, but I'm going to fill it in with a positive 1. Now, I know we've been talking about negative exponents. Since we do have this negative, remember back to one of our previous examples, I had a negative and I treated it with the exponent only if it does have those parentheses. Do I have parentheses in this one? No, I don't. So I'm going to treat this as if they're separate. So I actually have a negative 1 times 5 times x to the negative 4 times y to the 6. So each one is going to be treated differently. I look at my exponents for negative 1, 5, x, and y, and we work from there. Exponent on negative 1 is still just 1. All right? Same thing with 5. So since they're both positive, I'm going to put them on top of my fraction bar. And negative 1 times 5 still gives me that negative 5. It's going to stay on the top because my exponents are 1 and they're positive. If I look at my x has a negative 4. So since it does have a negative, it does want to move, so I'm going to move this guy down. So I'm going to put an x down here. Once I do have that x on the bottom, I put in my exponent, which is a positive 4. It becomes positive once I do move it down. My y6, my exponent is a positive 6, so since I have a 6, I'm going to leave it. It doesn't want to move. Oops, wrong color. So I'm going to leave it with the y on top. And since I didn't change it, I'm going to leave it with the same color, so it's going to be y is 6. So this should be my final answer. So again, we're only moving the exponents that are negative. Even though this number is negative, my exponent is positive. So I don't care if my exponent, if my number is negative. The only thing I care about is if the exponent is negative. The base can be negative. So the bigger number, the whole number that's on the bottom, that base can be negative. My exponent cannot. So I need to move it down. Looking at E. E and B are very similar. That means that something has changed. So it's not going to give you the same answer. Did it accidentally just give you guys the same question? So I look at both of the exponents. If I look at C, my exponent is a negative 6. So I do know that because I have an exponent, it wants to move. Since it's already on the top, it's going to move down to the bottom. So I'm going to draw my fraction bar. And I'm going to move it down to the bottom. And once I do, that looks more like a 0. I'm going to have a positive 6. So again, because it's negative, we're moving it down, and I get C to the 6. I look at my D. I have a D to the positive 4. Since it is positive, it doesn't want to move. It's fine where it's at. So I'm going to do D. My 4 is going to stay because I didn't move it. So I don't have to change anything. However, I still don't have anything on the top. When I don't have anything on the top, I'm just going to substitute a 1 up to there. Because technically it's invisible and it's, just hanging out. All right? So, again, the only thing that is moving is my C because I do have a negative C. It moves down. C does go before D when we're doing our alphabet, so C would go first. Sorry, slight hiccup. So yeah, because this is a negative 6, it does move down, and I get C to the 6. All right? Now, moving on to some of the harder questions. Well, not too hard. So let's move the camera over just a tad bit so that you guys can see this side. We're still continuing what we were doing on the other board. We're still looking at our exponents. If I look at this 3, what's going to be my exponent? I don't have one. Or I I do, it's just invisible. What's the thing that's always invisible? That's right, it's my 1. So I'm going to put a 1 on top. Since it is a positive 1, do I have to move it? No. So I'm going to leave my 3 where it's at. I look at the next one. I have x to the negative 1. This is a negative, so I do know that it's going to move down. So I'm going to draw my arrow going down. Since I do have something going down, I'm going to make my fraction bar, and I'm going to move my x. Since it is moving, and it did move, my negative 1 now becomes a positive 1. So we're going to leave it right there. I look at my y. My y is negative 2. Again, since it's negative, we are going to move that guy. So we're going to move it down. So once I move it down, my y now becomes happy, or it's happy that we moved. So my negative 2 becomes a positive 2. All right? However, when I do have a positive 1 as an exponent, I could erase it. I don't really need it there. Kind of like when I had a whole number, there technically is an exponent, but I really don't need it. All right, let me move the camera just a tad bit so you guys can see it a little bit better. There you go. All right, so y to the negative 3. Y to the negative 3, since it is negative, I am going to move this guy down. So I'm going to draw my arrow. Since it did draw an arrow going down, I do need that fraction bar. Once the y moves down, that means my negative 3 becomes a positive 3. So I'm going to put a positive 3 right there. I look at my x. X to the negative 2. Since it is to the negative 2, we are going to move it. Since it's already on the bottom, we're going to move it up to the top. So I have an x on the top, and since we did move it, that negative 2 becomes a positive 2. And there's nothing else I can do. So y has a negative 3, so it moves down and becomes positive. X has a negative 2, it moves up, so it has a positive 2. And the last one is kind of combining everything that we have learned so far. I do have this negative 16. Does it have parentheses? It doesn't. So we're going to treat it separately. We know that it's the same thing as negative 1 times 16. What exponent does each one have? 2? No, it's 1. So I'm going to have a 1 here and a 1 here. Are they positive or negative? Positive. So am I going to move these guys? No. Even though I see a negative 1, this is my base, not my exponent. So it's going to stay. Then I treat each one of these separately. I have x to the 0, and I also have y to the negative 2. All right? So negative 1 times a 6, well, that just still gives me negative 16. My exponent is 1, so I don't have to move it. X to the 0. I know this one. X to the 0 was special. What do I know about any number to the 0 power? What answer does that give me? I know it. What is it? X to the 0 gives me a 0. No, that's not right. X to the 0 gives me 1. That's it. So I know I'm going to have 16 times a 1 because x to the 0, that gives me a 1. Y to the negative 2. This is negative. So I know I can't have it there. It's being a little baby. It doesn't want to be there. So I'm going to move this guy down. Since I did move it down, we're going to do that fraction bar. We're going to put my y, and since the 2 was negative and I moved it, it now becomes a positive because it's happy that it moved. Now we just simplify it out. Negative 16 times 1 still gives me that negative 16. And I get